Astral travel is considered by many magic practitioners as a significant part of their practice, or otherwise acknowledged as a possible, even desirable technique to master along one's esoteric path. But what is astral travel, and what types were exercised in the 19th and 20th centuries within the Theosophical Society and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn? Stay tuned to find out. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Angela Puca and welcome to my Symposium. I'm a PhD and university lecturer, and this is your online resource for the academic study of magic, esotericism, paganism, and all things occult. Astral travel can be defined as the act of leaving one's physical body to travel to other realms of reality, other dimensions, or to places in the world that allow for interactions with various entities, objects, and structures, otherwise not accessible within the ordinary inhabitation of our physical body. Similarly to other techniques employed in magic, astral travel has been perceived and entertained in different ways over the years. In my research with contemporary practitioners, I have witnessed different perceptions of what astral travel entails and what it is. Astral travel is sometimes perceived as a state or a place accessed during the dream state, sometimes during the waking states, spontaneously or purposefully, and other times during meditative practices or through altered states of consciousness. Leaving aside the contemporary discourse around astral travel, I want to present to you its historical origin and theoretical roots. The concept of astral travel as we understand it today is in fact relatively recent and has its roots in the Western occult tradition, and more specifically in the 19th and 20th centuries. Indeed, in 1895, the Theosophist Charles Webster Leadbeater published The Astral Plane, which described the various sceneries, phenomena, human and non-human inhabitants one might encounter in the astral environment. For the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, traveling or descrying on the astral plane was an important activity an initiate was required to master in order to obtain a clear idea of the relation of man and the universe, and to spiritual planes. Later on, these concepts of the astral and the techniques to travel in it were adopted by many occultists, including Aleister Crowley and Edgar Cayce. They then permeated through the 20th century, and by the mid to late 20th century, these ideas and techniques were diffused and incorporated into numerous groups and esoteric religions, including New Age circles and contemporary paganism. Yet, it might be of historical interest to know that the idea of an astral plane as a distinct realm emerged during the late 19th century. It stemmed from a specific perception of the cosmos, the self and its relationship to the body, particularly by closing the divide between this world and the next, and the emergence of the perception of the self as being separable from the body. By the end of the 19th century, occultists like Leadbeater could assert that the astral plane is an absolute reality, and that the objects and the inhabitants of the astral plane are real in the exact same way as our bodies. Yet, this was not the only way the astral plane was understood at the time. For members of the Golden Dawn, for instance, the astral plane existed symbolically and was structured according to elaborate systems of correspondences. Now, looking at how the concept of astral travel could have begun to be conceived, we ought to grasp that the very possibility to leave the physical body behind and enter another world requires a specific conceptual understanding of the self. As John L. Crow explains, foundational to our modern understanding of the astral plane was the sense of self that emerged from Cartesian dualism. The sense of self coming out of Christianity, especially Pauline Christianity, is one in which the self is internal and personal. This changed with the philosophy of René Descartes, which identified the mind with consciousness and self-awareness. Mind was then placed in opposition to the body. Esoteric traditions, therefore, combined a Cartesian dualistic understanding of the consciousness as being separate and separable from the physical body with other existing esoteric models of the self. For instance, in Neoplatonism, we also have the notion of the physical body as separate from the soul. Bridging the divide body-consciousness, or material versus immaterial self, is what Wouter Hanegraaff describes as subtle bodies, whose divisions, enumeration, and constitution differ from tradition to tradition, but are often seen as mediating or comprising parts of a person. There are indeed numerous influences that contributed to the synthesis operated by the Theosophical understandings of the self. The historian Julie Hall traces them back to Neoplatonism, Egyptian cosmologies, Kabbalah, Paracelsianism, spiritualism, just to mention a few. Now, we have seen that the astral travel underlies a substantial difference between the physical and the non-physical, both in the word and in the self, such that a subtle, less material or non-material part of us can travel through the material and the non-material realms of the cosmos. To do that, you need to have a distinction between the traveler and the place you travel to. I, Angela, wouldn't be able to travel to Italy unless Italy was something separate and distinct from me. If I and Italy were the same thing, I would already be Italy and no travel would be possible nor required, because there wouldn't be a distance between the subject traveling and the object traveled to. Astral travel also underlies a distinction between a more material self and a spiritual one, with the latter being seen as able to directly connect with the transcendent. The result of this perception was the creation of a double self, or simply the double, as it was frequently called in theosophical circles, which caused individuals to identify the self as both mind, subject, and body, object, simultaneously. Time now to explore the types of astral travel. There are two types of astral travel discussed in 19th century and early 20th century occult traditions. The first type sees the individual leave the body and travel to the astral side of the material world, either in the present, the past, or the future. Crow labels this as geotemporal astral travel. The second type sees the individual travel in a world very different from the material one, an environment controlled by symbols and symbolic correspondences rather than natural laws, and is labeled by Crow as symbolic astral travel. Both in the Theosophical Society and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, practitioners engaged in each type of astral travel, but the members of the Theosophical Society were more concerned with issues regarding the astral and its relation to the material world. For Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, the astral plane was simply another dimension of the physical world, but one not controlled by the ordinary laws of physics. When the double traveled, it traveled in the astral dimension of the physical world. Yet the two were so close that when the double left the physical body, it could see the material world as if it was looking at it while embodied. Those in the material world could also see the double, which generally looked like the physical body, including clothing. I would be a goth double. In the early years of the Theosophical Society, astral traveling, also called liberating the double, was seen as the highest possible achievement in magic. In contrast, the members of the Golden Dawn understood their astral travel experiences as part of a magical and initiatory journey as traveling on the astral plane helped develop a deeper understanding of the self and the universe. An example of this would be an astral travel experience where a member entered a symbolic astral environment using a tarot card as a portal. Differently from the Theosophists, the symbolic astral travel was experienced while awake. The Golden Dawn's internal organizational instructions, called flying roles, give detailed instructions as to how to interact with the astral, as well as examples of what one should experience. The Golden Dawn divided their work into 3 types: descrying in the spirit vision, astral projection, and rising on the planes. And what is your knowledge or indeed experience with astral travel? Is there something you'd like me to cover in further details in another episode? Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comment section. This is it for today's video. I really hope that you found it informative. And if you like my content and want me to keep the academic fun going, please consider supporting my work with a one-off PayPal donation by joining memberships or my inner symposium on Patreon, where you will get access to our Discord server, monthly lectures, and lots of other perks depending on your chosen tier. And if you did like this video, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell so that you will always be notified when I upload a new video. And as always, stay tuned for all the academic fun. Bye for now.